Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you folks are staying warm. Man, it's been so dang cold, at least where I am. I mean, it looks like it's been that way the whole East Coast. We got snow yesterday and the day before, like 4 or 5 inches, which you never see around here. But it's just been cold. The weather's not been great. I'm still getting over this cold and sickness I had. Still congested a little, but I appreciate y'all taking the time out to watch this video. Today I'm just going to do a short video on something I was thinking about when I was messing in my boat yesterday, trying to get some tackle and stuff organized. First of all, thanks to everyone who has subscribed to the channel, and I appreciate it very much. And thanks for all the comments, likes, and all the feedback to the different videos. I've had a couple of questions in some of the videos, and I'm gonna do another video where I'll reply to some of these questions and kind of show you, why I use what I use and my thought process behind it. Obviously, if you guys ask questions, I try to give you a straightforward answer as to why I do what I do. Everyone fishes differently. Everyone uses different equipment. Everybody has a different mindset. And honestly, how much money you want to spend has a lot to do with how much you put into fishing. Because, I'm not going to say it's a money pit like some people like to call it, but depending on what you're looking to do, you got to spend some money to get the get the equipment and the stuff you need to fish. It's just part of it, just like anything else. So, but I will be coming out with a video soon with answer some of those questions. Today we're going to talk about big fish. I'm going to talk about three baits that these three baits have caught the three biggest bass that I've ever caught. Where I'm from, pretty much lived most of my life in Virginia. And a citation bass in Virginia was either 24 inches long, or 8 pounds. So that was kind of like, in my mind, that was like the target to shoot for big bass. So when I first got into it, got into fishing, I went several years and, never really caught very many big fish, from just learning and just figuring some stuff out. And I finally got to the point where I was able to catch some bigger fish, but I hadn't really caught any 8-pounders. But I'm pretty sure it was September of 1995, which has been a while ago now. I caught my first 8-pound bass. It was 8 pounds exactly. 2 weeks before, I caught one that weighed 714 in the same lake in almost the same place. But it wasn't the same fish. I had a friend of mine, a buddy with me on both those trips. But that first 8-pound bass I ever caught in September of 1995 came on a Zoom red shad U-tail worm. That was the first bait that I ever really caught any bigger size fish on. I had it rigged on a 3/16 ounce lead sinker. Like I said, this is 1995, and I'm pretty sure a 3/0 offset worm hook, Gamakatsu, because that's pretty much the only hooks I've ever used. Through this, not this exact worm, but this worm on a lay down, was working it, and after about the third or fourth limb, you felt that tick, that little, I remember I actually saw my line jump, and it just moved off to the left. And how I knew right off the bat that this wasn't a regular bass and was bigger than anything I'd caught to that point was I was still fishing out of that Alumacraft that I mentioned in the crankbait, the bomber crankbait video a couple weeks back. And when I set the hook, that bass literally pulled the front of my boat, that Alumacraft, around almost 180 degrees off the bank of where that laydown was. And I can remember just looking at the guy that was with me, and his eyes got all big, and we were both like, if this is a bass, it's a good one. And it was, and it weighed 8 pounds even. He netted it for me. That fish is the one that's in my shop. Too cold to be out there this morning. It's like 19, 20 degrees this morning, I think. That fish is the one that's on the wall out there in the shop. And that's the only fish I've ever gotten mounted, ever took to a taxidermist and had done, was that fish. I said I'd always get one mounted. That was the first 8 pounder. And that's the only one I've gotten mounted to this point. That was in 1995. Like I said, 2 weeks before I caught that, I have they used to give it these citation awards. I still got that somewhere. 2 weeks before, I caught a 714. But to me, it wasn't 8 pounds, so it wasn't a citation. It was 24 inches long. That one came on a buzzbait, not far from the same tree that this one came on. And that was at Western Branch. That was the lake name back in Virginia. I was fishing a lot then because I mentioned before, we had these horsepower restricted lakes, but the fishing has always been so good in those lakes, and it still is. It's crazy what the guys that live there now, what I still keep up with the weigh-ins and what they weigh in, and the fishing there is just like so good. But that lake was always probably my favorite lake out of all the ones in those Suffolk lakes, was probably that one. Fish number 2, my second 8 pounder, was an 8 pound 2 ounce fish. And it got me this right here in the club I fished with back then. Suffolk Bass Busters, I believe it was called. This was Big Fish Award for the year for this second one. She weighed 8 pounds 2 ounces. And that was probably the prettiest bass. That fish wasn't but 22.5 inches long. And she weighed 8 pounds and 2 ounces. You're talking about a football. Somewhere I got a picture somebody took of that fish and gave me, and I don't know where it's at. I tried to find it and I couldn't. But here's the story about that fish. It was on the Pasquotank River, and we were putting off in Elizabeth City, and this was in March. It was our first or second tournament of the year. All of us had John boats. Hardly any of us back then in that club had bass boats. We all had John boats that we worked on and modified, added decks to, and a lot of guys to this day still do the same things. And it was so cold and windy that day that we probably had 12 to 15 boats, maybe. Half of us were in this one creek that was not very far from that boat ramp. Because it was so windy, it was just blowing us all over the place in our John boat. So there was like 6, 7, or 8 of us all milling around in this one group, passing each other all day long, just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in there. I can remember we were kind of cracking jokes as we would fish up and down the stretch of bank, and then we come back down and we just keep all day long passing each other. And I just started noticing everyone was throwing the same thing. Everyone was throwing either a big old Colorado spinnerbait or a jig. They were the two main things just about everyone was throwing. And I had already got to the point where I was big on crankbaits. And this is about 4 years later. This is 1999, so. And I tied on a crankbait that I had had some luck with in rivers before. Never had much luck with it in the lakes, in the Suffolk lakes, back those lakes I was talking about earlier. But in the rivers, I always had good luck with it. And there was this one laydown. Everybody had fished that thing over and over and over and over and over again. And I went by it and I said, I'm throwing that crankbait on it next time we go through there. And about the third cast with this crankbait right here. This is a Bill Norman. And this, I believe, now I'm not even positive, but I think this is called, they used to have one called the Little N, and this was the Big N. And this is a sort of a fire tiger looking color. 8 pound, 2 ounce bass that won that big bass trophy for the year. I think it won me, you know, a few $100 for a big fish for the year, as well as big fish that tournament. And it won me that tournament because I only weighed in 3. And those 3 fish I had weighed like 12 something. But that 8.2 was but it came on this crankbait right here. Still use this thing to this day, sometime in the river. It's an ugly little bait, I ain't gonna lie. It's got one big knocker in it. It's got good action. I got 2 or 3 of these. I don't know what color this is. It's kind of like Fire Tiger, but I've changed the hooks on it I don't know how many times. I bought this thing for like, I remember I bought 3 of them. They were $2.99 each in one of those bins at one of the bass shows that I'd been to. I bought this one and 2 others. Still got all 3 of them. I don't know if I've ever caught anything with the other 2, but I have caught a lot of fish with this one. Maybe this one's got a little bit better action to it. You know how you can buy 5 crankbaits, and one of those 5 will catch them better than the other 4 will. Now this is just a plastic. It's not a balsa or anything. So, but this little bait has done really well for me at times in the river, especially early in the year. It's not a flat side. I mean, it's a smaller profile, but you can tell it's not a flat side crankbait. But 8 pounds, 2 ounces. And I remember when I got the bite and we got that fish in the boat, nobody back there that was fishing around in that creek could believe that that fish came off that tree as much as it had been fished. That day, all 3 of my bass I weighed in came off of this. And after I caught that 8.2, you saw a lot more people trying to dig down and find a crankbait to throw around in that creek. And they put the spinnerbaits and the jigs down. But that was my second 8 pounder, and that was an 8.2 on the Pasquotank River out of Elizabeth City, North Carolina. The last one this year, no, I'm sorry, last March, which would have been 2024, last year, I was pre-fishing for a ABA tournament I had coming up on Falls Lake, and that particular fish I was lucky enough to get on video because I had started video and making my videos for the channel, was an 8.3 at Falls Lake, and it was a 1/2 ounce Strike King Bleeding Series spinnerbait, chartreuse and white with the red in it. It's got the red hook, and one thing I use for a trailer a lot is the tiny fluke, the tiny swimming fluke. I'll use that a lot of times on my spinnerbait as a trailer. It's got a good little thumping action to it. It's one of the things I like to use for a trailer. That fish weighed 8 pounds, 3 ounces on my scale and on another scale that I was able to weigh it on. So that's my personal best to this point is 8 pounds, 3 ounces. It was a nasty day. It was in, I'm pretty sure it was in March last year. Cold, raining all day, caught a ton of fish. And that fish was just in about 3 foot of water. I rolled it past the stump. I felt it hit the stump. I popped it off, and she just inhaled it. And like I said, it's on video. On that video, I think it's Falls Lake pre-spawn on Falls Lake Fishing is the name of it. But that's up on the channel. So, but these 3 baits. You know what's crazy about this fish, this 8.3? That was the only fish I caught on spinnerbait that day. I probably caught 20 bass or more, and they were all on crankbait. And I decided to throw something different. I think I did catch 1 or 2 on the jig too. I decided to throw something different and pick this up. And about 5 or 10 minutes later, I caught And I threw this for a while after, and I didn't catch another, but it's a 1/2 ounce. And this is a good spinnerbait. I've talked about this spinnerbait before. But that's the 3 biggest bass I've ever caught. Red shad, Texas rig worm, Zoom U-tail. Still throw this worm in the rivers a lot. And I throw it in green pumpkin in the lake. So Norman, Bill Norman, Big N. This chartreuse and white spinnerbait. 3 biggest bass I've ever caught came on those 3 baits. I was just digging around in the boat, like I said, and saw this, and it made me think about it. And I was like, what's the 3 biggest bass you've ever caught, and what'd you catch them on? And that was it. So I just thought I'd make an interesting little video. One day I'll do a video on the biggest 5-fish stringer I ever caught. Because I may have said in the bomber crankbait video I did for the 6 and 7A a couple weeks ago that was the biggest stringer I'd ever caught that day when I got hooked on that bomber crankbait. But I actually did have a stringer that was bigger, and it was actually in the BFL I got 2nd place in as a co-angler. But I'll do a video on that later. But anyway, I just wanted to do this real quick. What you guys, tell me what you caught your biggest bass on. What's your big bass bait? What have you got the most confidence in? What do you like to throw to get you a bigger bite? Larry Nixon used to say that big fish just happen. That he always thought you really couldn't fish for bigger fish, you know. I don't know, Larry Nixon's a legend, so I don't want to argue much with what him or any of those guys, him or Clun or KVD or any of those guys say. But big fish kind of just show up when you least expect them, that's true. But some guys say you can target them with these glide baits and different things. And I'm going to get into the glide bait fishing some this year. I really want to do that and see if it'll increase my chances of catching more bigger fish. So just let me know what y'all catch y'all's big fish on, what your big fish is and what you caught it on and where you caught it. All right. Appreciate you guys watching the video. Stay warm, and hopefully this weather will break and soon we'll be able to get back to doing what we love to do. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.